Hey there, and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug review. And today I want to talk about the latest episode to drop, Psychomedian. And I'll be honest, a few months ago when I was talking about what episodes are going to be good and relevant throughout the season, this was on the bottom of my list. I didn't think it was going to be a worthwhile viewing experience, and the reason I said that was because we'd already started to see the episodes sort of divide themselves into little mini arcs that all acted as chapters in an overarching story, and usually linked together one after the other. But based on the episode order, this one looked to be a bit of a standalone, and thus I didn't really expect it to have that much of an impact on the actual story being told across the season. And then on top of that, I don't know, I guess I just didn't have much faith in the story actually being good in terms of the episode itself, without even looking at its place in the season. It felt like filler. And hey, I can admit when I'm wrong. And yeah, I was really wrong. Because whilst this episode was indeed filler, it was the right type of filler. It was funny and engaging, and for the first time in a long time, Cat Noir came out of the episode looking like he actually matters, which is always great to see. I feel like this season, which promised so much development for a lot of the different characters, has not really highlighted Adrian much at all. Mostly he's just angsty or comic relief. And so for him to actually carry the team a little bit this episode was quite a nice change of pace. So yeah, with all that being said, let's jump into the episode. Anyway, we started off the episode with a nice little meta-commentary on Marinette's character arc in terms of her interactions with Adrian, with her basically getting roasted by the girls about her attempts at wooing him. First, with a little flashback where she attempts to give him a present and fails hard, only giving him a deeply awkward wave, which even Adrian seems to find weird. And I mean, you gotta know that it's cringe when the guy with the least experience in social interactions finds it awkward. And then there's another flashback of him offering her a ride home, but she refuses, panics, and tells him she's going to go get some couscous instead, which he again finds awkward. And I like this little scene where they all just sort of tear it to shreds. For one, it feels like a legitimate teenage interaction. The characters actually act how I would expect them to act based on their age. And I just love how done they all are with Marinette's inability to act like a normal person and just tell him what's up. I just feel like this scene was a fun little acknowledgement by the writers of, yeah, she's cringe. Sorry. Anyway, as Marinette gives up hope, she, and we the audience, are reminded that whilst the development's been slow, their dynamic has actually changed. As now, they're actually friends as opposed to being friendly classmates. And then we get a little flashback of Adrian asking if they're friends and telling her that the girl he loves doesn't like pranks. And man, what the hell? Is this from that weird cringy statue episode where Marinette tried to make out with Adrian's statue, only to realise it was him and that he was pranking her? Ugh. God, that gives me cringe shivers remembering that. Anyway, does anyone else find it a bit weird for Adrian to just start talking about the girl he loves to his supposed new friend? Like, if somebody just did that to me out of the blue, I'd find it kinda weird. Especially since he never tells her who it is. He just refers to her as the girl he's in love with or the girl he likes. I know this is for plot convenience to keep them dancing around each other forever, but come on, who does that? It's so weird to just drop that kind of info but then leave out the name. Like, I understand that in the story he can't, but that's why you just don't mention it. It reeks of, oh yeah, I have a girlfriend, but you wouldn't know her. She lives in Canada. So yeah, Marinette mopes, and then Juleka and Rose cheer her up and tell her that there's no love without friendship. Aww. And my god, the bait! The audacity of this bait! Because obviously, this would hint that they are in fact more than just good friends, right? It definitely feels that way from this scene, but then in episodes set later in the season, like Guilt Trip, it just feels like this is not the case. Like, I mean, what's up with that? Either do or do not. Don't leave people hanging like this. I just think it's a little bit mean. You're getting people's hopes up. I mean, I get that people might say to this, oh, you have to read between the lines a little bit. But come on. They don't make you have to read between the lines for the hetero couples, do they? Stop the bait, mate. Stop the bait. Anyway, we then move on to a scene in the middle of the school where Marinette's attempting to once again plan her future with Adrian with the marriage and the 3 kids and the hamster and all that. And I gotta say, ballsy to say all that stuff in public where literally anybody could hear you. Like, Chloe and Lila literally hate her. Would it be so out of character for them to hear this and record it to give to Adrian later? I think not. And speaking of Adrian, Nino is showing him a video of his favourite comedian, who's sadly not funny at all. And God, this one hit me right in the feels. I have been there. There is nothing worse than showing somebody a video thinking it's the funniest thing in the world, only to discover that they in fact do not find it funny, that they don't laugh, and then you have an awkward couple of minutes waiting for the video to finish so you can go cry in the shower. Luckily for Nino though, Adrian notices Marinette flailing about and starts to laugh quite hard, and then covers it up by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm laughing at the video, haha, classic, honk honk." So in the end, nobody's feelings get hurt, and the stage is actually set for the main plot of the story. And although the episode's going to try and frame this as romantic later, he was laughing at her. You cannot convince me he wasn't. He was laughing at her, not with her. So that's a bit of a bummer. Anyway, seeing that they're laughing, Marinette decides that humour's going to be her next technique that she's going to use to try and woo her fair damsel Adrian, thinking that if she can make him laugh, he'll definitely fall in love with her. But by that token, shouldn't he already be in love with Nino, who regularly makes him laugh? Anyway, outside the school, Marinette accosts Nino and demands to know what was making Adrian laugh, with Nino revealing it was a video of Harry the Clown. And conveniently, she actually knows this man, personally, because he comes into the bakery every day to buy a baguette. Seriously, how popular is this frickin' bakery? Does every celebrity in Paris come here? Anyway, at the bakery, she overshares to this family acquaintance and completely spills the beans that she wants him to wingman her and get her tickets to the final show, which is being held that night, so she can get this random kid to fall in love with her. Deeply awkward, this scene, especially since her parents are just lurking in the background. And what do you know? This guy just happens to know Gabby. From the start of his career, I guess, when Gabe was just a costume designer for movies and stuff. So I'm guessing that is in fact how he met his wife. Deep lore. I love it. And luckily enough, they're still good friends, and Harry's going to convince him to send Adrian to the show that night. And once again, her parents are just standing there. Come on! At least pretend to be doing something else. Creepy. We then cut over to the Agreste mansion, where this guy has gone in person to get Gabe to send Adrian to the show. And, I mean, isn't he cutting this a bit close? Don't these kinds of things start at like 7:30, 8 o'clock? And it was 5 o'clock at the bakery. And then he had to go to Gabe, convince him, go back. Maybe a phone call would have been smarter. Doesn't he have to go get ready, put on some makeup, prepare? I don't know, I'm not a clown. But surely he can't just rock up 10 minutes beforehand and say, "Yep, it's time." Anyway, his foolproof plan is to offer Adrian a role in his film. And did he do this because he wants Adrian in the film? Or just to secure a date for Marinette? Because if he did this just to wingman, then this guy's the truest bro the show has ever seen. But then he goes on to pitch perhaps one of the worst ideas of all time. An emotional and dramatic superhero movie starring Super Chip, Camembert Justice, and Wonder Potato. Ugh. I'm sure this movie's going to dethrone the MCU as the top hero franchise for sure. Seriously, what was this guy thinking? Also, I loved Gabe's line about them agreeing never to talk about Super Chip ever again. Gave me a good giggle. And then him ordering him to destroy every existing image of the Chip costume? Reminds me of George Lucas and the Star Wars Holiday Special. And remember how this guy needs to go and have a meeting with his producer and go and prepare for his show? Well, no, because first up, he needs to go and visit Marinette, leaving the mansion cheering and screaming and dropping his script as he goes, and public littering is very naughty, mate. And then Harry and Marinette prance around her house cheering and concoct a plan for her to make Adrian laugh and fall in love with her, where she'll reenact a cowboy sketch for Adrian whilst they're waiting in line. And speaking of the sketch, Jesus, this scene was cringe. Vomit-worthy cringe. But in a good way. The writing was good. It was meant to make you feel uncomfortable. And it did. Ugh. Gave me the shivers. I cannot imagine that happening to me. Anyway, she crashes and burns, and then she runs off crying. And yeah, on a rewatch, it's actually quite funny watching her fail. But that first viewing, ugh, painful. But in her defense, I get that Adrian is sheltered, but surely he could see she was doing a skit, having a joke. Couldn't he give her a pity laugh? Oh! Anyway, speaking of crashing and burning, we cut to Harry having a very successful pitch to the producer guy who tells him that the movie is a great idea for a comedy, but that since the idea sucks for a serious drama film, it is not happening. And fair enough, this movie would crash and burn and become one of those cult classics that's so bad it's good. At least as a comedy, people would enjoy it and it wouldn't be a complete waste of resources. And I mean, this producer guy is usually presented as a bit of a villain, but fair enough that he doesn't want to waste his time and his money on this truly rancid idea. So yeah, Harry's depressed, and to top it all off, he has to see Marinette crying about how she's failed so hard. Damn. Anyway, he gets akumatized and turns into Psychomedian, a villain who can change your emotions if you're looking at his face. And first up, cool design and cool power. And he's probably one of the better villains of this season, if I'm being honest. Anyway, he makes the audience angry and starts a brawl in the auditorium, whilst Adrian transforms into Cat Noir. And I gotta say, he was not adequately hidden behind that metal post. At least Marinette transformed behind a truck. Anyone could have seen him. And from there, they have their first encounter with the villain, which is pretty stock standard, before they run away to regroup and figure out how they can stop themselves from getting their emotions shifted. And so, a lucky charm gives them a makeup box to paint fake eyes on their eyelids. And what the hell's up with this makeup? Is it self-applying? Is it super magical or something? She just dabs at her eyelid twice. And if you look real close, she isn't even looking at the mirror with her other eye. And yet she has this perfect eyelid painted on. What? Anyway, they have a second battle in which they break his red nose. Ooh, but it's not the akumatized object. Oops. And Ladybug gets turned into Angry Bug and almost kills some bystanders when she goes crazy and starts throwing cars and other heavy objects before she engages in some friendly fire and tries to beat down on Cat Noir, who grabs her and escapes. And this is where he becomes the episode's MVP, as he now has to try and win the day with essentially a very cranky toddler who happens to have super strength as his partner. And so he takes her to the sewer to de-transform, where her and Tiki, who's also very angry, get into a shouting match, whilst Plag and Adrian kind of look like those downtrodden husbands you see in TV shows that have no idea how their life turned out this way. And of course the villain just lets them leave, because villains are apparently deeply stupid, and goes to torture the producer into making his film instead. And I gotta say, respect to the dude for just saying no again and again. The idea really does suck. But back to Tiki and Marinette's argument. She says she's been doing this for like 1 billion years. But what did she eat to get her power back in the times before the rise of baked goods? Can they just eat everything but are just really picky and have favourites? Or is it actually the flour or the eggs that she's supposed to eat to power up, but it tastes better in baked form? Is it maybe the sugar? I need answers, damn it! But anyway, Cat Noir wraps Ladybug in a rug and goes off in search of Psychomedian, and then lets her out to use an angry lucky charm, which gives her a bike helmet, which she smashes in her rage, forcing them to steal another person's helmet before she insults his costume and swipes his belt to use as a blindfold and starts to fight Psychomedian. And I gotta say, I know she has super strength and whatnot, but does she use the Force or something, running around blind like Daredevil and still whooping ass? How does she do that? And then we just have Cat Noir in the background painting the helmet red and black. Cute. Anyway, long story short, they beat him, etc, etc. Hooray! But side note, can anything be used to do that magic Miraculous Ladybug reverse thing? Don't you need it to be your lucky charm? I figured it would need to be the object you actually summoned, not just a badly painted replica. Oh well. And this brings us to the end. They give him the lucky charm, they go to the show, they have fun, the producer still won't make the film, and Gorilla can hardly fit in the chairs. Classic. So yeah, this was filler. And you could tell it was filler, but it was still awesome. Honestly, one of the best episodes, and this was the perfect balance of comedy and cringe and absurdity, and it really encapsulated what the show is all about. And with that being said, those were just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Like it, hate it? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know.